tried putting up a chat. Let me know if that went through. Let's see, camera. I don't want to use the camera. Yeah, okay. Hi, Gracie. Hi. If you guys have questions, just type your questions there. You can let me see if I can turn this around so you can see it without seeing my hideous, dirty house. Oh my gosh, in my kitchen. There you are. Hi. So see right now how it got it shows you as muted. You don't have audio, you don't have video. It's because however you've turned this on or joined this, you didn't enable it in some way. So it's okay because you can still send little messages to me. So I guess I'll just start chatting. And if you guys have questions, you let me know. I was going to go over a couple different things here. And so we're just going to try to do it this way. Sorry, I'm making noise too. All right. So we're going to make this kind of little. And we'll drag it all the way off to the side so that in this window we can have you guys, and then in that window we can have this stuff. So I'm just going to chat, kind of talk about stuff here, and if it's helpful, you listen. If you have questions, just type in some questions. Just make sure that you can actually hear me. All right, so the first thing I wanted to kind of look back through was we'll go over this quiz. I think. So I'm just gonna basically talk to nothing. Cool. Woohoo. If you want me to look at something in particular, you guys just pop something up on the chat because I've got that. You see, I've got that pulled up. So looking back through Actual and Quiz, we did really good on all of these literary terms, literary devices. For the most part, you guys did fantastic. So I'm just going to kind of scroll back down through those. Comprehension check questions. I was just trying to see if you guys were understanding the basics, what's going on in the play, who are some of the main people. And for the most part, you guys did okay with a lot of these. You guys stop me if you have a question with one of them. What title does he give? That was just kind of like, did you understand? Prince of Cumberland is actually the title that Macbeth was hoping for, but he did not get. That's one of the reasons kind of that probably drove him to his actions, is that Malcolm was named Prince of Cumberland. And that seems kind of weird because we have this idea that, well, the king's son would be the prince. But in Scotland, especially back in like feudal Scotland and like clan Scotland, a lot of times whoever was going to inherit would usually, oh, hi Cameron, would usually be the prince or the eldest son. But a lot of times in Scotland, you kind of had to prove yourself. You had to be like also the biggest, bravest, baddest guy. And King Duncan had just said, like, hey, Macbeth, that's you. You're the most amazing guy. There's nothing I could give you that would express how grateful I am to you. Gracie, yes, I'm going to ask you about some of the literary devices, but it's just going to be, there's literally like 5 questions. Just checking to make sure that you know some of them. and the main ones, just that you could that you can identify them. Prophecies. So they see these witches out on the heath, and it's kind of like, oh, crazy ladies. Banquo thinks he's funny. He's like, oh, look at these bearded ladies. I think they're ladies, but they got beards. And they make all these prophecies for Macbeth. They call him all these things, you know, hail to the Thane of Glamis, hail to the Thane of Cawdor, hail to the king that will be. And Banquo is like, whoa, what's going on? Why do you say that? And then he says, you know, talk to me. For Macbeth. So the reason anybody who put this here, he already was the Thane of Glamis. That's who he was when the play starts. He writes his wife a letter, and when we first see Lady Macbeth on stage, she's actually reading that letter. Now, that was a different noise. I am not sure what that noise was. I'm just going to keep going. Oh, hi, friends. I see Justin. I see Kayleigh-Ann. I'm just chatting, just going back over this stuff. The reasons that Macbeth gives why he does not deserve to be murdered. These are all things that are pretty important to him. But specifically, he says, you know, the king does not deserve to be murdered because he's a guest. This he doesn't talk about. The king didn't do any kind of fighting. He wasn't actually in the battle at all. And then he didn't do this. Quote matching. Some of these are just kind of to make sure that you recognized. I mean, that one's pretty obvious. Fair is foul, foul is fair. Kayleigh-Ann, Justin, you're unmuted. Like, I didn't mute you, but it's showing me that you don't have chat ability or like talk ability. But that's okay, because that just means if you have questions, you just pop them down in the chat. So you should have a little group chat there. The Prince of Cumberland, that is a step on which I must fall down, or else so late for in my way it lies. That was a great one. And Macbeth talks about that. He says that after the king names his son, Malcolm, the Prince of Cumberland. No, I mean, clearly Lady Macbeth. This is actually an important kind of a quote that Macbeth says. He says, you know, I have no spirit side of my intent. There's nothing pushing me forward. He says there's really nothing like making me do this. Only vaulting ambition. Only ambition, and he calls it vaulting, and ambition can kind of like push itself into things, and then oftentimes it leaps itself and falls on the other. A lot of times when we get overly ambitious, it doesn't work out for us. The Thane of Cawdor was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust. King Duncan says this, and he says it right after he says, there's no art to find the mind's construction in the face, which is another important line. He says, you know, you can't tell what you need to tell just by looking at a person. The previous Thane of Cawdor at the beginning of the play, the previous Thane of Cawdor was somebody who he completely believed in. Thou shalt get kings, though that be none. So it's about Banquo. This is said about Banquo, but the witches, that's kind of like their big prophecy for him, is that you shall get kings. Hey, Kayleigh-Ann, I've told it to record. So yes, so it's supposed to, so that as soon as it's done, I should be able to load it up for you guys. And then this is what Banquo says to the witches right at the very beginning. He says, hey, wait a minute, you're greeting Macbeth with all of these predictions and saying that he's going to have noble having royal hope. He's got these things. What about me? He says, speak to me, tell me something cool. All right, so the close read passages, and I apologize because Oh, just hi, Grace. I apologize. I didn't realize. No, we can hear you. Is that Caitlin? No, no, we can't hear you. I guess that was Grace. Okay. I did not realize that the program was going to count the question, or I'm sorry, the passage as a question, and so that's why it screwed things up with the when it randomized stuff. So just knowing that moving forward, I will make sure that I do not do that. So this first close read. Hey again, Cameron. So this one was about this section of the quiz. So if you can see that, this is in Act 1, Scene 7, and Macbeth has had some time to kind of think about himself. Justin, last week was kind of funny. I did it just to see if it would work, and so I logged in and nobody else logged in, which was okay because I ended up being at Wild Wings having dinner, and we had a meeting at Wild Wings for 10-15 minutes and then I turned it off. So there wasn't any specific help last week because nobody had questions for me. So no, I did not save that one. I didn't figure you guys wanted to stare at the ceiling at Wild Wings. All right, so this is Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. He has just been talking about, maybe I'm not going to do this. He says, the king is a solid dude. Like, he has honored me lately. He's given me all of this stuff, and I don't need to do this. And then she's like, are you crazy? Was Hope drunk? Or, what's going on? So let's take a look at our questions. The reason he doesn't want to proceed, he's not a coward. He enjoys Duncan, but that's not the reason he doesn't want to do this. The reason that he is not pushing it, he says, we'll proceed no further. I've bought golden opinions for all sort of people, which would now be worn in their newest gloss, not cast aside so soon. So because of Duncan making him Thane of Cawdor, he has this standing, this high standing that he doesn't want to ruin, and he doesn't want everything to stop. So Lady Macbeth is like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. Let's see. So she talks about how he's drunk, and she talks about how he's weak. She says a man would be a coward or wouldn't be a coward, and she said, would you rather live like a coward? But she's not calling him directly a coward. She's saying, man up. She's saying, do what you need to do. Don't be this way. So that one was kind of tricky, but she's mostly saying, don't be weak. Don't live a coward. But she's not going through, like, this is explaining all. She doesn't do all of these, she doesn't explain it. All right, so this one was pretty okay. She's manipulative. She's a crazy person. Disappointed. She's like disappointed. I think of like a stern, like, oh shucks, honey, what's wrong? I don't think about like this crazy mad Lady Macbeth saying screw your courage to the sticking place, which is kind of a dirty joke, by the way. Lady Macbeth's part in the evil doings, she's going to drug the guards. She's not going to kill them. She's just going to drug them, so they can't tell anything. And she says, I'll drug them. Will I with wine and wassail so convince that memory the water of the brain shall be fumed, their seat of reason a limbic only. She says, I'm going to drug them. They won't have any idea what's going on. They won't have any memory. They won't have any of this stuff going on. They won't know the next morning. Evidence, there's going to be plenty of evidence. There's going to be daggers. There's going to be blood. But what she's talking about is drugging them. And then in the beginning, she's ridiculing him. She's like, what are you talking about? Are you like a drunkard? And then she does switch to this kind of devious, like, mwahaha. Oh, you can't see. I'm trying to do my little evil fingers. Whoa. All right. Best summary of Lady Macbeth's soliloquy. That was this one here. And this actually kind of bounced backwards for a minute. This was her talking about the letter. She read the letter. Oh, we're losing people. She read the letter, and she says, "Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, and unsex me here, and fill me from the crown to the toe top full." She says, "Fill me with cruelty, make thick my blood, make me tough, take away all of my emotion and my sweetness." She wants to rid herself of anything feminine. It's not about, she knows what her resolve is. She knows what her desires are. She wants all of the femininity of who she is to be gone so that she can act on her resolve. She has these things already, but she's worried that like her womanly compassion will keep her from acting on them. So that's what she wants. Let's see. Oh, this is apostrophe. That was just a bonus. If you got that, you got extra points. Yay. All right. That was the last of this one. Let's kind of scroll down through here. Lit terms. You guys are fine with lit terms again. Central idea. Murder must live with the consequences. We haven't. So this is kind of a weird question because I want you just to think about Act 2. What's going on in Act 2. Macbeth is confused, he's upset, but this hasn't happened yet. Eventually you might say at the end of the play something like that, but if you just look at the stuff that's going on in Act 2, that's what they're thinking about. What was accomplished? You guys did all right here, and I kind of let both of those go. Motif. So motifs, I know you guys have been thinking a lot about motifs in your discussions, and really just a motif is something that you see over and over, or something that's repeated regularly to help build a theme. That's kind of a building block in literacy or in literature. The the screams are actually, and I think I just phrased the question not well. Badly. The screams kind of represent the fact that he has done this. But then after everybody was putting dagger, I was like, oh yeah, I mean, they talk about, she even says, why have you brought these here? So I realized I kind of gave you a silly question. But what I was looking for you to understand was that, the screams, Lady Macbeth hears them. I heard the owl scream and the cricket cry. And then Macbeth comes in and talks about them too. This was good. The guilt, he talks a lot about blood, and she talks a lot about blood. Hey, Kayleigh, just a couple of the literary terms, and really just the main ones. And all I'm going to ask you to do is match them. I think I said 5, and it's just a quick check on some of the main ones. His heat-oppressed brain. He is stressed out. He is super stressed out. And the reason you wouldn't say regret is because this comes from when we're in this close read stuff. Here we go. He says, "Is this the dagger I see before me?" This is where he's talking about his heat-oppressed brain, and this is before he goes to kill Duncan. So he hasn't done it yet. Palpable is like touchable. To palpate means to like mush. And so he is talking about, I see thee in form as palpable as that which now I draw. Like he says, I can see you, this, and you're just as much as like I would touch you, but I think that you're not real. Let's see. No, not murdering Banquo. He's talking about this bloody business. He's about to go and kill Duncan. Yeah, I said good here. This is kind of knots are tough. if we look at lines 52 and 54, 52 to 54. Withered murder, alarmed by a sentinel, the wolf, whose howls is watch with a steady pace. Murder is alarmed by the sentinel. That's just, so you've got personification, you've got paradoxes, opposites. So that's what we're missing. Allusion, you're alluding to pale Hecate. You're alluding to a bunch of stuff there. Oh, you all got that. Oh, Marshall is the way to go. This one, I think we were just struggling. I mean, tone's tough. I know tone's tough. So the reason we do this, he's not exactly confused. I can kind of understand controlling, but when you talk about he's not confused, if you look at this speech, he's questioning, but it's not. Confusion is more like he doesn't know what's going on. He knows what's going on, and he recognizes that, like, is he envisioning this dagger, or is this, and then this controlling kind of throws it off. Apathetic means that you have no care when you put an A in front of something, and then pathos is emotion. So apathetic is like a lack of emotion, which he's not. He's like, lots going on here. All right, and then we had another one. It wasn't that. Oh no, it was still from this one. I'm sorry. Was it? No, it wasn't. Banquo hid the sisters when first they put the name of king upon me. If you just looked up the word chide, then yeah, it means to scold. But Banquo did not scold the witches. When he starts talking to the witches, he's like, wait, please tell me something. So he definitely is not scolding the witches. And that was kind of one of those things where one word can have many meanings, and you have to look at it in context. And so that particular question is asking you, hey, in context, when Macbeth says that he chid the sisters, what is he talking about? When he talks about them, for them the gracious Duncan have I murdered, for them have I filed my mind. Here we go, it's this one. To make them kings, the seed of Banquo kings. He's talking all about Banquo's sons, Banquo's heirs. Oh, Banquo, I would say I like Banquo. I feel bad for Banquo. He really was kind of loyal to Macbeth, I think. I don't think he was going to do anything. When Banquo has his little soliloquy at the beginning of Act 3, and he says, thou hast it now, King Cotterglom's all, and thou played for it most fiercely, but he doesn't have a problem with that. So he recognizes what Macbeth has done. He's pretty sure about it. He doesn't question that. And then he says, but if fate is going to give this to you, well, then fate maybe is going to give me stuff too, and I'm okay with that. Let me pull that up, because that's an important kind of moment. Act 3. I just want to see. Thou hast it now, King Cotterglom's all, as the weird woman promised, and I fear thou playest most foully for it. So he recognizes what Macbeth has done. And then he says, yet it was said it should not stand. It's, you're not going to be king forever. It was said it should not stand in thy posterity, but that myself should be the root and father of many kings. So yeah, you were going to get to be king, but then I was going to, have children who were kings. If the witches can tell you truth, Macbeth, well, why can't they tell me truth? Why can't they be my oracles? Why can't they set me up in hope? So I think he was kind of loyal to Macbeth. he wasn't going to hurt Macbeth. He didn't have any problem with it. All right. And then he's afraid of Banquo for all of these reasons. So Macbeth has no sons. And he says that. He says, you know, on my head they've placed a fruitless crown right here. Put a barren scepter in my grip. Thence to be wrenched with an unlineal hand. So I have nobody to hand it down to. I don't have a son to hand it down to. And then he says, my fears and Banquo stick deep. He is wise. He has a wisdom that doth guide his valor. Like, he knows stuff. And then the witches said that his children would be kings. Line 10, you guys got that? That's an illusion. Mark Antony and Caesar. In lines 24, 25, he says, come, fate. Rather than so, come, fate, into the list. Into the list is actually an old way of saying, like, let's go. The list is referring to people who fought. So, like, come into the lists, like, who's there? Hi, Justin, welcome back. Come, fate, into the lists and champion me to the utterance. He says, let's go, fate. Let's fight. Have at 'em. All right. And then Wayward. Oh, did you guys see that? Maybe not. Let's see. That's not this one. It's this one. A wayward son. That's where this came from. So Hecate is kind of like the queen of the witches. She's in charge of everybody, and she meets them, and she's like, "Hey, you hags, what are you doing, you saucy, overbold hags? How dare you trade in traffic with Macbeth and not talk to me? Like what are you doing, you crazy hags?" And he says, you know, she says, you're screwing this up, and you're giving him all of these prophecies, and he doesn't deserve it. And so she says, you know, we're gonna take care of this. It's really kind of to do all of these, and I accepted. I took all of these kind of as answers. The scary nursery rhyme idea. That was something that, if you looked into the history of stuff like that, and we talked about how witches were meant to really be terrifying to his audience, and what has upset Hecate? They didn't come talk to her. How did you dare do this? And I was never called to bear my partners with glory of our art. You know, you didn't include me. Well, cool. What is not foreshadowed? This is. Nobody's really sacrificed. So you guys did okay there. Oh, and that's 2 and 3. Awesome. All right, let's see if we can fly through some of this stuff. More literary devices. Just checking to make sure you guys are okay. And like I said, there's just some of the key ones. I'm literally just going to ask you, what is this? What is that? Match some definitions, just so you can show me you really understand the important ones. Main purpose, we got this, we got all this stuff. This is, so I had to go back and think about how I worded this, and when he sees the second apparition, that's actually what changes his mind. The second apparition is the one that comes in and says, the first one says, beware Macduff, and he's like, oh no, I got to do something about that. But then the second apparition says, don't worry, because no man of woman born. Yeah, Kaylee, I'll go to him in just a second. No man of woman born can harm thee, Macbeth. And that's the moment when Macbeth is like, oh, shoot, then what do I care about Macduff? I don't care at all about Macduff, because no man of woman born can do anything to me. So that's really kind of the moment that he realizes he doesn't care about Macduff. And it's not until after this whole scene when Lennox comes in to tell him, hey, by the way, Macduff is gone. All right, hey, so yeah, Macduff, this was all fine. He goes to the witches. It's after the Banquo's ghost scene, but he goes to the witches because he wants them to basically fix things for him. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to pop over here to Act 4. Oh, nice. Let's just circle it. Shakespeare, Act 4, Scene 3. All right, so Macduff is one of the key lords, and at the beginning of the play, he's just a battle too. He's not very special. He's just another dude. But he comes in where he really becomes important is after the king has been murdered. Oh, I can hear you. You can talk. Hi.
I'm sorry. I had to join on my computer because I was so confused because I could barely hear you. And I was like, well, I'll just unmute it.
No worries. Well, okay. So Macduff. Let's talk about Macduff. I'm glad you're there because I can ask you questions, or you can ask me questions instead of me just babbling.
Okay.
So in Act 2, Macduff comes in. I'm trying to remember which scene. Let's try 2 and see what happens. He is there to basically pick up the king and take him to the courthouse. And that's where we first see him, right here in Act 2. And he's just another lord. Excuse me. But he is the person to discover Duncan.
Okay.
And he's the first person really to kind of challenge everything that's going on. And he says, I don't know that I trust all of this. So he discovers Duncan, and then he's all makes so bold to call. 'Tis my limited service. I'm going to go find him. And then he leaves, and then he comes back in. Oh, horror, tongue your heart. He's so upset, and he makes this whole like symbolic thing where, oh, the king is murder hath broke ope the Lord's anointed temple, like talking about like his brains are out on his pillow. And so that's kind of the main part of who he is. And then as you get a little further, later in that act, he goes outside and they're talking. We hear some other lords. We have Ross is another lord, and then this old man. And they just talk about like, oh, things are going crazy. And Macduff comes in and tells them, yeah, the king is dead. And it looks like Malcolm and Donalbain may have done it, but I'm not so sure. And so he's already kind of suspicious that everything looks a little funny. And all of the other lords are going to go with Macbeth to Scone to crown him as king. And Macduff is not going to go. He says, I'm just going home. I'm not taking part in this. So from the get-go, he's kind of suspicious and not very happy with all of this stuff. And Macbeth senses that. Everybody kind of senses that. So after Macbeth has been crowned king, Macduff remains kind of this thorn in his side. Like, he doesn't believe me. He doesn't honor me. So when he deals with Banquo, he's like, okay, Banquo's out of the way. And then he hears that Macduff is someone he has to beware of from the witches, from the apparitions. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, okay, well, we'll handle that. We can kill Macduff. There's too many Macs.
I know.
I actually did all of these scenes in class today, and it was like Macbeth. We just kept stumbling over the names.
I get so confused.
Yeah,
all of them.
And honestly, the best thing to help you would be to see a version. So if you've had an opportunity to, and I know I'm like the worst English teacher ever, I'm like, watch the movie. But then you could put faces with it. And that's honestly, when I teach it, that's what I see in my head. I see those certain actors saying those lines. And
I
that's
watched
how,
the videos you gave us at the end of like week 14. You would have those videos, or week 13, I don't know.
yes. Let me pull them back up because I gave you a couple different clips. Yeah. And there's two, I don't know if you saw my note at the bottom because somebody that I was talking to was saying, oh, I had no idea. So I gave you guys a bunch of these clips, yeah. But then where it talks about the video versions, these two right here, this one puts the whole play in kind of like a Cold War sort of setting. But they do a really good job of like acting everything. So like you really feel like what's going on. If you're struggling with some of the words, you can still tell like what they're doing. And then this one is the most recent one. And honestly, this one's my favorite, but you have to kind of be willing to, they put it in the period, like they put it in history. And so if you don't understand all of the stuff about like clans and things like that, it might not make as much sense. I mean, this isn't necessarily going to make sense too, but it's good and like creepy. But when I see, like when I talk about these characters, like the people who played them in these, that's who I see in my head.
Okay, I'll do that for sure.
So that's often
So we're
helpful.
definitely gonna have to know the vocab that was on the quizzes.
What do you mean by vocab?
I guess I think you went over palpable or palatable. I don't know which one it was.
No. Palpable. No, that was just so you'll have some questions where when I give you those vocab questions, what I'm looking to see is even if you don't know the word, can you figure it out based on how it's used?
Okay.
So like we call them vocab and context questions, where my goal isn't as much for you to know the word as it is to be able to figure out that word. So no, not, I'm not going to ask you like, what is this word? But I think there's a few questions where I'm asking you to kind of.
Okay. I don't know if you're allowed to tell us this, but on the test, I know few like from past tests I've taken in language arts, not from yours or anything, but they would have the characters' names and then a quote. And we would have to match which ones.
So I am going to give you some quotes.
Okay.
But all of the quotes that I'm asking you about are, first of all, they're key quotes. A lot of them you've already seen in the quizzes. And then if you look at, let me think about what else did I open up. So there's all kinds of, I don't know if you've seen these yet, if you've pulled these up yet, but these are, I went act by act and I just kind of picked out like what's going on, what are some kind of important things that are being said. And as you go through, obviously I've done this like 83 times, so I see these each and I'm like, oh, that's when so-and-so says blah, 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 or that's when this guy was talking about da, 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 da. So just look at them and think about, you know, can you identify kind of what's going on with these? Because I didn't ask you about anything that I didn't put on stuff.
Okay.
And then I gave you guys this too. This is basically just a summary. But it's like fill in the notes summary where what else? Oh, I know what else I was going to talk about is you are going to have a cold passage. I'm going to give you a passage from a play that you have not read, just so that you guys can show me like I can figure out some Shakespeare. So there's the stuff that I put on this week is specifically for reviewing for the test. So there's the fill-in notes that I just pulled up. There's the study guides that I just pulled up. And then I also have given you this document, which is an analysis of a speech from a different play. And what I did is these questions on the side here, are the style questions that we ask you when we give you cold reads or close reads. You know, based on the passage, tell me an answer, or what is a paraphrasing here, or, you know, according to these lines, what's going on. So this is just a short part of a scene from a play you guys haven't read. And I went through the whole thing and just tried to give you as many close read questions as I could that kind of went along with it. So if you wanted to test out, you know, how, like, test out, hey, if I can, how can I pull this up and take a look at it and kind of understand what's going on?
I'll look at that for sure.
Yeah. Killian, the key for the guided notes is actually on here. It's right here. No, yes. The annotated version of my fill-in notes for the whole play is right here. And you give it a second to load and it'll just pop. No. The first one that I showed you was blank. And it's not anything that you have to do. I didn't ask you to do it as an assignment. It's just, it's there.
I'm gonna read that too. Me and Kayleen are gonna study tomorrow.
Cool.
Sure. Like together, but
no worries.
Look at that.
All right, so that's there.
No.
Are you guys together?
Me and Kate right now? No.
Yeah?
Tomorrow we're gonna be together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. And then yeah, so, and I gave you a couple other things with that Lear stuff too. I gave you this little slideshow, and this just takes one of his speeches. No worries, Killian. You can type and that's just as good. But this slideshow literally deconstructs this speech piece by piece by piece. You can see all these like lines, and
I didn't see that for some reason. I don't know why.
So it's just a, hey, let's practice going over Shakespeare's crazy language. So that slideshow.
It's really hard to read.
Is right here. I completely understand. Yeah. And one of the other things that I put on every week was a link. This is my just regular class, like my face-to-face class website. And then it has a Shakespeare page also.
Yes.
And so there's all kinds of stuff on here as well. A lot of it you'll recognize as things that I've given you. But then there's other things that are useful too, like this little slideshow does kind of that same sort of thing where it just takes you piece by piece. Here's a bunch of different ways. That's a silly thing. And then, is it this one? It's this one, where it takes you through.
Wow.
Yeah, just the first couple days, just the first couple pieces. And what I'm looking for, and I swear I loaded it on here, but I had a paraphrasing thing. I guess I didn't load it on here, but I can add it.
This is such a good idea, the recording.
Yay. Well, we do these for like grown-up meetings every now and then. I was like, I'm gonna give it a try for you guys.
So funny.
So yay, I love James the First.
The video was funny.
I thought he's hysterical. And I know he's like this weird little British dude, but he cracks me up. So yeah, I'm gonna try and give you guys just some basic stuff.
Okay.
Well, good. All right, so that's there. I can close those. That's most of the things that I wanted to make sure I went over with you guys. Okay. And then
I just definitely wanted to come on and like see what you're doing. And,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so I don't know. But
no, Killian, you don't need to know a lot about Ross. He is just kind of like a dude who's there. He's just another lord. Really, most of what I'm going to be asking you guys is just there's maybe 10 or 15 just like what was going on questions. But most of those are really going to have more to do with like things that were said. Like this was said and it was about blah, 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 blah. And then you're going to have two short passages from Macbeth where you have close reading questions. And those are going to look familiar. And then you'll have a cold passage that I give you from a different play that we haven't done together, and that you're going to have to go through and read and answer some questions.
Okay.
So it's not, I don't want you to stress it. I don't think it's going to be like
super hard.
Yeah. As long as you understand kind of the basics of what's going on in the play, you should be good. And then I was going to do this also, actually, while I'm here. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and take this limitation off. So if you wanted to go back through any of this.
Oh, yeah. I was actually going to ask if we could. Are you saying that for the quiz?
Yeah. I'm opening them back up to, and like, yeah. Okay. So if you wanted to go back through it, you can now.
Okay. Yeah, you are the best. Thank you.
Oh, and you know what else I'm going to do? Let me have it release answers.
Yeah, going back over that quiz, I will for sure help.
Yeah.
That's good.
So we will do that. Yeah, I'll fix those settings so that you can, so it should give you presentation. Hi, Callie. You're done driving. I hope. Callie was going to be driving back from practice tonight. And I said, well, if you're just in the car, you can get on your phone. And she said, no, I'm going to be driving. I said, okay, don't get on your phone. Presentation. You're good. All right. So yeah, you guys should be able to pull those up and have a look, and
okay,
should be good.
Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Study tomorrow.
No problems. If you guys run into anything else, you just send me an email or shoot me a text or whatever. Okay?
Thank you.
Good night, ladies. Bye.